Good morning, heroes. Today we're going to continue our series on time management. And we talked about how to use your calendar to help make you more efficient with your time by scheduling everything out on your Zero calendar. Now, this week, it's all about, now that you've created the plan, how do you stick to the plan? And one of the ways we do that is we call it grind time, scheduling at least 60 to 90 minutes on your calendar where you can focus on your highest value activity. And we discovered that inevitably, you've got this time blocked out on your calendar, but inevitably something will come up that distracts you, that derails you, that takes you off course. Now, sometimes that distraction is other people, family or coworkers or friends, or a text message that comes in from other people that strays our attention, and this urgent request that requires our service and our time. But most of the time, the distraction is us. We are our biggest distractors. You ever get to a block on your calendar where you have scheduled out, you've got this time allotted to work on this thing, work on this project, to do your superpower, and you get to it and you just don't want to do it. You're like, oh, I'll do it later. I'll get to it tonight, or maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Like, you ever find that sometimes you just procrastinate and put things off? The problem with that, though, is that you never get back to it, or at least a lot of times we don't get back to it. So this, I'll get to it tomorrow, I'll get to it later, oftentimes turns to I'll get to it never. So how do you actually focus yourself and not distract yourself so that you can actually do what you planned to do during your grind time? And it comes down to what I call protecting yourself from yourself. No, I'm sorry, let me just rephrase that. It's protect yourself from yourself. So today we're going to talk about how do you protect yourself from yourself so that you can actually stick to the things that you have planned and not constantly distract yourself and procrastinate and put things off to later. Now, when we talked about the Zero calendar, I explained the concept of your prehistoric brain. Now, your prehistoric brain is how we evolved as humans. Back in the prehistoric days, our main modes of survival were we were either hunting and gathering, we were fighting for mates, we were running from predators. Everything all these things required these huge bursts of energy. So our brains had to adapt for energy conservation. So that way we had all the energy reserves we needed for doing any of these survival mechanisms. Now, the problem is we don't live like that anymore. Nowadays, we have a much more comfortable lifestyle where we're not hunting and gathering and fighting for mates. Essentially, we don't need these huge rushes of energy anymore, but our brains are still adapted for energy conservation. So if you give it any options, guaranteed, it will always choose the easiest thing to do. So if you look at, let's say, for instance, we have this block on our calendar, grind time, where we're supposed to work on this big project, or we're supposed to be doing our prospecting calls, or we're supposed to be doing some writing and creating content, something that's going to require a lot of mental energy. And so we get to that block on our time, and then we sit down, and then all of a sudden our phone is sitting right there in the corner. We also, lunch is almost coming up. Your brain starts kind of seeking out all these other things it could possibly be doing other than what it's supposed to be doing during grind time. So what do you think it's going to choose? It will always choose the easiest things to do. Now, here's the thing. These other things are what's in its line of sight. It will always choose these things, the things that it can see as options. And so here's this concept of line of sight. Line of sight is simply your brain will always fixate on the easiest thing that's in its line of sight. So how do we protect ourselves from ourselves? Quite frankly, we have to clean up our lines of sight. And the way we do that is with our environment. Your environment is everything you see. Everything you currently around you, that's considered your environment. And so in order to protect yourself from your prehistoric brain, you have to clear out everything in your environment that could be a distraction that it will seek. So, the easiest thing to do is just, your phone. Your phone is one of the biggest distractions. So for myself, I put my phone in my bag. I turn off all the notifications. That way, it's not even an option. My brain doesn't see it. I don't want to reach for it. I don't yearn for it. I'm not getting dinged and notified by it. The phone is the easiest, one of the biggest distraction points, and one of the easiest things you do is just get rid of it and get it out of your line of sight. Email is another big one. If you're in a role where email is not an essential part of your function, meaning you don't have to be accessible by email 24 hours a day. And I would challenge you, a lot of people, you may think you need to be accessible. I would challenge you, you don't necessarily need to be accessible all day long. Everyone that I work with, and when I challenge them on this, they end up acknowledging that they could find a 60-minute block, or they can work an arrangement with either their boss or their coworkers where they can have at least a 60-minute block where they're inaccessible, where they can really focus, have their focus time. So if you're in a role where you don't have to be necessarily accessible by email 24/7, then there should be a period of time or blocks of the day where your inbox is not open, where you're not constantly notified and you're constantly seeing all these new urgent things that everyone else thinks is urgent that they're dumping on your plate. So during your grind time, I would challenge you to close down your inbox so that you can have focus time to do your superpower. And one of for me, I work from home, and I recognize that anything in my line of sight, I will want to do other than what I'm supposed to be doing. And so it helps to have a dedicated workspace. I used to work from the kitchen, especially in the closed down situations that we're in, where my wife is working from home and I'm working from home. So she had to have, the spare room, which was the office. And so I had to work in the kitchen, and I'm sitting there, I'm all geared up to work on my project or to start banging out some content. And I'm in the kitchen. So I see the refrigerator, and I don't know what it is about the refrigerator. It's like, if I'm in the room with the refrigerator, I have to go check it every 15 minutes. I don't know if I think something grew in there or something magically just appeared in there, but if I'm near a refrigerator, I have to go see what's in it every 15 minutes. And so I can't be in the room with the refrigerator. Or to be honest, I can't be in the house at all, because I will sit there and I'll look over and see some dishes and like, oh, you know what? Let me start washing dishes. Or, these baseboards haven't been cleaned in a while. Let me clean the baseboards. You can tell when I got a big project I should be doing, because all of a sudden the house will be sparkly clean. So for me, I had to find a dedicated workspace. I recognize that is how I distract myself. And so I had to remove myself from that environment, because otherwise, I would do everything else other than my grind time. So one of the easiest things to do is to just, if you have dedicated workspace, either an office or a shared office space, or even, a coffee shop works fine. Just something to get you into an environment where you can minimize as many distractions as possible that your brain will want to seek out. Now, the question becomes, what do you feel like for you? What's your biggest ways that you distract yourself? And then once you kind of write all those down, come up with a plan. How can you protect yourself from yourself? All right, heroes, get to it. See you.